Hi, welcome. Thank you all for joining today. I'm really excited to present on One Health, and you'll see why in a moment of why I'm really passionate about this topic. To get us started, though, oh, get me, my slides will advance. There we go. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. So my name is Sharon Toth. I'm a county 4-H agent in Hunterdon County, New Jersey, which I realize when I say that, that doesn't mean anything unless you're from New Jersey, but it's this little red dot over here. It is borders Pennsylvania, so I'm about 15 minutes from Pennsylvania. And I work for Rutgers Cooperative Extension or Rutgers University. That's our land-grant institution. I received my Bachelor of Science in Evolutionary Anthropology from Rutgers, and then my PhD in Biological Anthropology from the University of Pittsburgh. And I like to say that I transform lives by merging researcher methodologies with educator techniques, and I feel like I will represent that through my talk today. And my background always looks like how did I get into 4-H with an anthropology degree? But it's because I was a lifelong 4-H'er and I really valued the experiences that I learned in 4-H and through extension. And I wanted to bring back that information to my community that I learned in school. So my presentation today is going to have three main areas. I'm going to define what One Health is and why it's important. I'm going to talk about what I did during my research days as a PhD student, and then how I apply that to being a county 4-H agent. So what is One Health? We keep using this term, but what does it really mean? It is a collaborative or interconnectedness of human, animal, and environmental health. It's a multidisciplinary approach that recognizes that the health of people, animals, and the environment are all connected. We're not siloed from each other. It brings together experts from all different fields, from human medicine, veterinary medicine, environmental science, and beyond to solve complex health problems like zoonotic diseases, food safety, and climate change. So some examples that we see of One Health and how we see it every day in our society is avian flu. That's very prominent right now. COVID, rabies, West Nile virus, Lyme's disease, E. coli, salmonella, listeria, climate change, contamination, deforestation, pollution. All these have an impact on human health, animal health, and environmental health. They all interconnect. This Venn diagram, I believe, does a really great job of representing how One Health connects together. So here's a simplified version that I really like to educate with. It shows cows graze next to a lettuce field, and cows can carry E. coli but still look healthy. Then the E. coli from cow manure in the nearby farm can contaminate the lettuce field. And then people eat contaminated lettuce and can become infected with E. coli, and then serious illness or even sometimes death can result. So this is just a really simplified version of how those animals, health, human, animal, and the environment all connect. And one of my favorite examples is that of the development of insulin for diabetes. So this is a life-saving example because of the anatomical and clinical similarities in the dog and human pancreas. It aided in the development of insulin. So in the early 1920s, scientists studied dogs to understand how the pancreas regulates blood sugar. They discovered that removing the pancreas caused diabetes and that insulin from healthy pancreases could restore balance. It was a major medical breakthrough. So this research directly led to the first effective treatment for diabetes in humans, saving millions of lives. So early insulin was made using pancreases from cows and pigs, and it was turning that fatal disease into a manageable one people can live with. And this connects to the environment though, because early production relied on animal byproducts, linking insulin to agriculture and livestock practices, but eventually concerns over supply and sustainability led to biotech innovations that now produce synthetic insulin that still today is used for millions of lives, and then why people who have diabetes can continue on living a normal life. And I personally like that model because it does use a dog model. And this is what I used in my research when I was a PhD student. So a lot of times when we think of animal models, we may think of using pigs. We see that a lot, or maybe mice. But different animal models exist for different reasons. So for dogs, it's specifically interesting because they share 80% of diseases with us. And mostly of the nearly 400 inherited disorders characterized in dogs are relevant to humans. So they make them an excellent model for numerous human diseases, such as cancer, osteoarthritis, aging, and for me, it was knee ligament rupture. So I studied the ACL in the knee, and I'll go into that a little bit more. And they have a very similar structure. It is the gold standard for us, and it has it because of the histological similarity. And also with dogs, beyond sharing similar diseases, they are a useful model due to accessibility. They live in diverse environments like humans. They share the same environments with us, so they're exposed to the same bacteria, pollutants, and toxins, and they exhibit breed-specific diseases, some that are very rare in humans, like sarcomas. They also have the appearance of spontaneous diseases, as opposed to being induced like in mice. And they age 5 to 8 times faster than humans, aiding in a disease timeline, allowing for observation of disease onset and condensed study time. Dogs are also the most physically diverse species and have the most known naturally occurring diseases of all land mammals after humans. So I use them to study the ACL and the knee because of all these similarities and their usefulness in modeling human research. So the main intention of my study was to correlate biological variables and ACL rupture patterns by using comparative anatomy of human and dog knees. The predisposition factors for non-contact ACL rupture is not really well understood. Basically, the forced twisting motion of this ligament in the knee does not produce consistent rupture patterns. This research aids to reduce future ACL rupture incidence rates while mutually benefiting humans and medicine, human and animal medicine further. So sometimes we hear the dog term CCL versus ACL. It means the same thing. They're called homologous structures, which means they have similar structures due to shared ancestry. And comparable to humans, some dogs rupture this ligament at a greater rate than others, and 80% of ruptures are non-contact, similar to that 70% in humans. And we see that spayed female dogs are at the highest risk of CCL rupture, and both spayed or neutered dogs, regardless of sex, have significantly higher rupture rates than sexually intact dogs. And the reason for these rupture disparities in dogs is unknown, like in humans. So why is this all important? Why do we care about our knee? Why don't we just say, well, we'll brace it and it'll be fine? It's because musculoskeletal conditions affect 1.7 billion people in the world, and it contributes to nearly 166 million years lived with disability and make the largest proportion of persistent pain in all geographical regions and age groups. Musculoskeletal conditions are the leading cause of disability worldwide and the reason for early leave or retirement from work, contributing to less financial security. There's also a lack of physical activity can contribute to declined mental health and physical health. Knee injuries are also the second most commonly injured site after the ankle, with the ACL ruptures accounting for over 50% of those injuries. Men account for the majority of ACL ruptures, but women are more likely to rupture it at a 2 to 8 times greater rate. While surgical interventions or rehab are common practice, only about 50% of people will return to their full pre-injury state. So this increases rehabilitation and surgical costs and less chance of full sports into reintegration or even mobility. And as a female, I find this specifically interesting because they're at a 2 times greater rate to rupture their ACL, and especially for ages 15 to 19 years old. And female sports participation has increased more than 1,000% since the passing of Title IX, that where all institutions that receive federal money must offer equal access to curricular and extracurricular activities for men and women. And nearly 8 million students currently participate in high school sports, with continuously rising numbers over the past 29 years, and female participation at an all-time high with more than 3.4 million athletes. This increase in female participation suggests ACL studies prior to Title IX were really focused only on men and that we don't have an equal representation. And only in the past 30 years, since 1993, did the NIH mandate that their funds be used for women and men in their studies. And also, women only represent 4% of orthopedic surgeons. So throughout the study, I use the Golden Retriever Lifetime Study done by the Morris Research Foundation. And what I found was that it was a multifactorial process. There was no one cause for it, and that it was hormone regulations played a large piece, which is impacted by our environment. And that impacted growth and development on bone structure and how we function and move. So that was a really quick summary of what I did. But how do I apply this all? What does that have to do with extension? How do I apply this to my 4-H teaching? I'm so glad you asked. So I implement one of the most popular 4-H curriculum that we see, which is 4-H embryology. This is very popular across the nation, and that is where youth hatch eggs in the classroom to learn about growth and development. And this relates directly to One Health. So from the animal perspective, youth are getting investment in another life. They're seeing the growth and development of an animal. From humans, they're also seeing the zoonotic diseases. They're learning about biosecurity and the importance of maintaining a healthy environment for the animals and themselves. And in the environment especially, they're seeing how the environment impacts development. Like I saw in my dissertation research, how development impacts our bone structures and hormonal impacts. That's the same here with embryology, just on a smaller scale. They also talk about sustainable farming and food systems. So how do we be sustainable farmers while we produce food to feed our nation and our people? And then I also do a workshop called Bone Voyage, exploring domestication through bone. So my background in anatomy and osteology, which is workshops where participants learned about domestication. So from that animal and human perspective, they're learning about the symbiotic relationship, the shared relationship we have with each other, and how we improved health with each other. We helped animals improve their health, but they also helped us through domestication processes. And then also we talk about the impact on bone preservation, which is the term taphonomy. So why is it so hard, like you can see in this photo, to recognize when an animal has been domesticated? It's not always easy. There's no defined aspect that goes, this animal has been domesticated. So it's a very gradual change. And so I do a workshop where youth get to work with bones hands-on. So right here, they're holding a horse femur, and they get to understand what the anatomy looks like. And then we use paper cutouts. So they get to create their own animal after they make the original animal. So this one here is a beaver, a rabbit, and a dog. And they have to give the background information of why they do that. And then I have a pug here because we talked about that improved health. So dogs, being that highly diverse species, they're being the mostly diverse species on Earth, it's because we've bred them so widely. Pugs have that flat face, it's called brachiocephalic, and why they have hard time breathing. And that gives us a lot of information on respiratory diseases. And if you don't have an animal science program in your county, that's all right. One Health still applies. So you can talk about One Health and 4-H technology, such as AI's impact on society. So when you talk about AI, you can talk about the benefits and dangers to society, but also the environmental impact. So the AI data centers take a lot of water and power to produce. So this talking about while they might benefit us, it can really endanger our environment. So it's important to talk about this all-encompassing product of human, animal, and environmental health together. We're not siloed from each other. So thank you very much for joining me. Here's my information if you would like to contact me more. And I'm just going to quickly drop this link into the chat if you don't mind. It's a 2-question answer. I'd love for you to take time to answer that. Thank you.
So Sharon, I have a quick question for you.
Yep.
Can you bring to life the contemporary issue of bird flu with climate change and One Health? Just sort of give us that sort of synopsis.
I'm sorry, could you rephrase? Sorry. So
Okay,
the bird flu and the environment.
how climate change and bird flu are coming together and as it relates to one from a One Health perspective of analyzing it.
Oh, perfect. So the avian flu being so prominent now, we know it's a zoonotic disease. It can spread easily. Humans, birds, and swine can spread through each other. While we're not seeing many cases in the disease spreading to humans, there have been cases even in our county where it was found in feral cats. So the environment plays a part because most of avian flu is being spread by wildlife. So when they fly over a chicken coop and they poop and it comes down into your coop, that's spreading the disease further. So by having precautions and biosecurity is the big thing of protecting your coop. So making sure if you go to visit somebody's coop, for instance, you are not wearing the same type of shoes that you wear to your coop. Your coop, those are the only shoes that ever go to your coop and that they stay on your property. And if you ever go to somebody else's, you make sure to sanitize and clean for the safety and it reduces the spread of that disease elsewhere. Are there any other questions? I hope I answered that. Please let me know if I was not clear on that.
This has been a production of Cornell University, on the web at cornell.edu.